Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Positive Impact Week conference, one of the most comprehensive in the industry. Many businesses across the entire SG spectrum and from all geographies will be involved. I am very pleased to kick off this week with the theme of the energy transition, as it is critical to cut carbon emissions. At Société Générale, we have a long experience across the energy value chain. Over the years, we have delivered financing solutions across a wide range of technologies. We committed to raising 120 billion euros between 2019 and 2023 to support the energy transition, and we are ahead of our target. On the energy side, we are a global leader in renewable financing, being at the forefront of innovative projects in floating offshore and floating solar. We are also developing a strong franchise in the nascent hydrogen ecosystem. Besides, we are helping our clients to develop new approaches and accelerate the deployment of energy storage, decentralization, power generation, carbon capture, and storage, and energy efficiency. In terms of mobility, we provide solutions across the entire electromobility value chain. We advise and finance sustainable extraction of cobalt and lithium, gigafactories, as well as EV recharging infrastructure. We support our clients with our expertise, thought leadership in participating to various industrial associations such as Hydrogen Council or European Battery Alliance. Through our research, our advisory teams, we help our clients transition and meet their targets. We look with them at the right financing or equity structuring that fits their strategy and roadmap. Now, I turn to our guest, Thierry Déo. So Thierry, you are currently the chairman and CEO of Meridiam. So I'm very happy to have the opportunity to have a dialogue with you on all these fascinating subjects. And maybe to kick off, it would be very interesting to describe Meridiam and what is your strategy going forward, especially in this context of the energy transition.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me to kick off this week. Meridiam is a specialized investor and a very long-term investor as we look at investment for 25 years. A specialized investor in the energy transition and in all low-carbon solutions, but also sustainable mobility and critical services such as healthcare and education for the public sector. We today manage about 50 billion euros, and the entire asset under management are actually driven towards impact, and that's really our specialty, which is really to focus on creating positive impact at the same time that we create financial returns for our investors. And one of our strategic impact sector is actually climate change. And therefore, the energy transition practice at Meridiam focuses very much on delivering, developing, and financing low-carbon solutions in all the areas that we'll be talking about today.
So, as I said during the introduction, we are pretty much involved in new technologies, and we try to accompany our clients. And this is why I mentioned hydrogen, the battery storage, just to name a few. What are the new technologies you are focusing on? Where you feel that there will be a great future, and you believe you can bring added value?
And as a long-term infrastructure investor, we try to address these new technologies in a way that makes it financially sustainable, and therefore being able to secure long-term cash flows, contracts that secure these cash flows in a way that we could actually finance them. So when you look at the evolution of the market, I mean, obviously, the intermittent energy solutions that have appeared in the past decades have actually created needs for storage, which is quite an important need for decentralization, things that we also do together in Africa in particular, but new technologies as hydrogen. We actually just close probably the largest in the world hydrogen storage factory based on solar power in French Guiana, but also together we've addressed the mobility solution by financing 3 years ago and now actually going to an IPO, the largest network of fast charging for electric vehicles. So we are trying to bring solutions to mobility, which is a great carbon contributor in the world. Being technology agnostic, but electrification is important in the solution. But hydrogen is becoming very important, although at a nascent stage. But also thinking about the systems, the resilience of the electric systems, the resilience of the energy systems, bringing decentralization and storage as solution to complement the sort of overall picture and strategy.
Well, Thierry, what is interesting for us as bankers is very often when we consider new technologies, innovation, this of course generates new kind of risks. And when you look at it, how do you arbitrate between innovations, risks, and returns? And how do you look at this in the context of these new technologies?
It's actually quite a fundamental question. And our approach has been, as we're not venture capital investors, is to really marry and combine innovation and new technology innovation with cash flows where we have a fairly good idea in terms of predictability. The second thing that we do is when we have innovation, especially when they're addressing energy transition, is we use by any means the blended finance solutions to actually be able to address such issues. I mean, take the example that we've done together of Allego, the EV charging, which was an innovative company building a network for charging. When we initially financed it, we used the EU Commission and the European Investment Bank program to support, I would say, the extreme risk that could have been associated with this technology. But at the same time, we're building an infrastructure that would serve the entire Europe. And with a certain predictability of cash flow in terms of usage, which is confirmed today. So it's having this innovation risk idea in the pot, but together with what kind of long-term cash flow this could rely on. And we know the penetration of electric vehicles, and we know where usage is going, and we know where the traffic is because we are mobility people. And that gave us great comfort to combine those two things, but also with the help of public sector players that can help reduce the initial risk. So it's a fairly sophisticated combination. It doesn't fit everything, but that's sort of a way that we look at it.
I agree. It's a great project, and we are very happy to have been able to support you on this. And of course, we often talk about the production part in the energy transition, but there is also the consumers. And if you take the buildings, of course, it represents, I think, roughly 20% of the CO2 emissions. So what about efficiency in the buildings? And I know you've been active in the US, for instance, and we work together. So how do you see the differences between the US and Europe in this regard?
In many ways, I think the US market is showing quite a lot of interest, and perhaps we have the impression that they are slightly in advance, but it is because building standards and efficiency in the US has not been tackled for quite a long time. So I think generally the EU in particular tends to build at very high standards of efficiency. And over the past 10 years, I think even through the support of the European plans like the Juncker plan, we've seen the development of net zero buildings, areas, quartiers in France, that has been quite a huge development. I mean, in the US, it's a bit of a new thing. We've participated and helped a number of university towns to actually transform and transition from coal to other cleaner sources of energy, but also having their building being more efficient. So I think it's perhaps the market with a steep curve in terms of growth, but because it was slightly behind general standards within the EU.
And since we are comparing geographies, I know Africa is very important for you, for us as well. We're very active in Africa, having a very important network there. And when you look at the gap to reach the Sustainable Development Goals in the future, a big part of the investments required will be in Africa. So I'd be happy to hear a bit more about how you see your developments in Africa in the context of the energy transition.
We're quite bullish, actually, in Africa because for us, it's a great opportunity to actually leapfrog into clean solutions rather than going through the full process of emitting carbon as we've done it in Europe or elsewhere. And clearly, some of the work that we've done in terms of addressing decentralization and access to energy is a very, very acute problem in Africa for the populations, but also for the industry. So the capacity is actually too low. So major investments are necessary to increase the capacity, but at the same time, reinforcing the networks and finding very smart solutions to address all the problems at the same time. So we have a bit of a condensed challenge in terms of getting to the new generation of energy solutions, whether we're talking productions, distribution, storage. But it's quite a very great challenge, and I think we're on our second fund that we raised for Africa. We've deployed nearly 3 billion euros in terms of capex investment in Africa, half of this being on energy.
So it's great to hear, and so clearly, as I said, we keep on working with you on these very important developments because Africa, we've got a specific push. We call Push for Africa, dedicated to this effort, and of course, there will be plenty to do in the future together. What about the other emerging countries?
I mean, Meridiam, in terms of geography, actually covers quite a number of emerging countries because we cover the entire Americas. And beyond Africa, we also cover Central Asia and a bit of the Middle East, basically all the countries that are countries of operation of EBRD. You have the same sort of drive as you would have in Africa in countries like Jordan and others, but countries like Jordan already have a big step in terms of clean energy. So we see it with the same eye, but I guess in Africa we find a market which is perhaps more standardized in terms of approaches, and that's what made it a very big focus for us. The other markets we tackle a bit countries by countries, but we have the same drive for it, but perhaps not the same passion.
Okay. There is, I think, very, very important topic, which is when we talk about the positive impact, which I believe is a very, very powerful concept. The difficulty we find as an institution is how do we measure the impact? And I understand that you've got methodology that you have developed internally, which is called Simple, which I think is a great name because it doesn't look very simple to me. So I'd be very happy to know a little bit more about this.
Yes, indeed, we've worked for nearly 3 years as we transformed ourselves into a Société à mission, or B Corp in the French and the French law. We've also set a number of objectives in terms of impact. So to reach such objectives, you need to have a tool to measure the impact. As I was mentioning, we have a specific tool when it comes to climate change, and this is not with Simple, but with a tool that we've developed with Carbon 4 and AFD in terms of measuring the temperature of our portfolio. But when it comes to Simple, it's all the other sustainable development goals that are key to us that we wanted to measure. So in fact, Simple is actually for see progress and improve performance. And the idea is to really be able to measure such impact and then include it in our sort of a project development and management strategy to actually improve such impact over the long run, as we are 25-year shareholder of these assets. So this has been developed over 3 years. We have an independent scientific committee overseeing sort of the development of all this and how it progresses. And our investors have a direct access to a platform where they can see the performance impact of their portfolio. So together with the financial returns and the financial cash flows. So it's very important for us. This tool, Simple, has been the missing link that we've had in terms of showing our investors and our partners that you can actually create financial value and non-financial value. And I think this is what also you're trying to demonstrate this week, again, that you're doing at Société Générale.
Well, Thierry, thank you very much for this very interesting dialogue. It has been a great pleasure to open the Positive Impact Week with you this morning. There are challenges ahead, but energy transition also brings opportunity and fosters innovation. I wish you and Meridiam a lot of success, and I am confident we will continue building together in the future. Next, we will continue addressing the question of energy transition with Stéphanie Clément de Givry, our Global Head of Metals, Mining and Industries. Stéphanie will be discussing with her guests how innovation in both renewable energy and mobility can accelerate the energy transition. I really hope you will enjoy the SG Positive Impact Week, and I wish you all a great week.